Cause I'm mad as hell, can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.
This is too good to be true, except this time it is real. 100%. No joke. How about a $25,000 membership to Front Sight Firearms Training Facility as a thank you bonus for a one-time donation to RBN of only $500? It is a Commander lifetime membership with no yearly fees or dues. The training is free for the rest of your life with over 50 different classes. Then leave it to your designated beneficiary. You provide the approved firearm, holster, ammo, eye, and ear protection. Many features and bonuses are included, more than you would ever expect or believe. This is the ultimate graduation present, wedding gift, etc., etc. See the details. Go to RBN's webpage and frontsight.com to make it happen. May 5th is the last day you will hear this offer on this radio network. Help keep RBN alive. Tell 5.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Monday, April 23rd, 2018, start of a brand new week. All kinds of interesting things going on here. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Dan is in our control room today, ready to answer the phone when you call on in. Mike will be in a little bit later in the program. Our third hour guest today is Dan McGowan, who probably you'll remember was famous for putting up some very controversial billboards, so we'll be talking to him in hour number 3. Meanwhile, let's get into the news. Obviously, if you're watching the corporate media, you're probably already hearing about this horrible incident that took place up in Toronto, Canada, where a gentleman took a van, a rental, and apparently just drove down the street at high speed, targeting pedestrians. There have been numerous fatalities, and the van driver's described as Middle Eastern. So once again, the joys of the global open borders agenda here. Now, France's President Macron is meeting today with Donald Trump. They had a meeting earlier today. They're out there doing press stints together. And the French president is calling for American militarism. Macron is out there saying that, yes, the U.S. has to stay in Syria and got to stay in control there. I don't know about you. I get really upset at all these foreign leaders who come on into our country and presume to tell us what we should do with our children and our money. But France is out there saying that he wants to build a new Syria with the U.S. Now, we've always heard about this nation building that follows a war. Huge amounts of money disappears. We don't know where. Not much building actually gets done. And apparently Macron wants a piece of that action this time. Over in Syria, the inspection team from the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons has finally reached Douma. They're taking samples, and they have issued a statement to counter some of the propaganda that we've been seeing on the corporate media about how Syria was trying to block the inspectors and Russia was trying to block the inspectors. And they clarified the issue, saying that it was actually the United Nations protective detail that was saying you can't go there yet. People are still being shot out over there. So they cleared up that little bit of propaganda. Now the problem is that the organizers of this false flag, they've now had quite a few days to go on in and plant evidence. So at this point, anything positive that the OPCW finds there, you have to question it. And again, go back to the original claim. It never made any sense for Assad to attack children with a chemical weapon when he's so close to winning his war, when Trump is saying it's time for us to get out of there, I quit. And it just didn't make any sense. And of course, the government will keep the lies going. They got to keep the image up. Which reminds me, normally I don't do film and television reviews, but over the weekend, Claire and I caught The Post on cable. This is a film. Meryl Streep is Katharine Graham. Tom Hanks plays Ben Bradley, the owner and editor of the Washington Post, back in the days of the release of the Pentagon Papers. And it's one of the times that the Washington Post really did do its job. And the film documents just how tough it was for them to do that, where Nixon filed the first ever in history injunction against a newspaper saying they couldn't publish, and the case went all the way to the Supreme Court. Following that, Nixon banned the Washington Post from any White House functions, created a huge amount of hostility, which came back to bite him when the Watergate scandal broke, and the Washington Post was the one newspaper that was willing to give it coverage. But interestingly enough, in this film, in the script, both the characters of Ben Bradley and rather Katharine Graham and McNamara are out there saying that, yeah, some stories don't get reported because the media wants to stay buddy-buddy with the politicians, don't want to lose that ticket on Air Force One. These days, of course, it's kind of hard to find a Katharine Graham or a Ben Bradley among our current corporate media, which is why, of course, the independent media has sprung into being. But it's definitely worth watching, and it does remind us there was a time when the Washington Post did do actual hard news that the government was not fond of. Okay, getting on back to Syria. Article coming out of Activist Post. The truth about the Syria chemical attacks. No evidence of Assad chemical weapons. Western false flag seems likely. Gee, you think? Everybody knows it's a false flag. The polls are showing the American people aren't buying the official story. There's no evidence provided by the West. Any evidence that might have been there has been bombed and blown up before it could be examined. The timing of the attack was very suspicious. It came right after Donald Trump said he wanted to leave Syria. We know that a month before it all happened, Russia was issuing a warning that their intelligence network said there was a false flag chemical attack that was going to be used to reignite the U.S. war in Syria. And again, the idea of children being subject to a chemical weapon attack. Well, that target is chosen to pull at your heartstrings, to create the maximum shock and outrage and horror, but it doesn't make any military sense at all, does it? That's why the story doesn't make any sense. Now, we're going to do a quick shout out to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. A lot of people were writing in emails to me on this very topic, and now it's starting to get some exposure in the independent media. Remember that wonderful video that Tucker Carlson did about the alleged chemical attack in Duma and how he denounced it as an obvious false flag? Have you noticed he's been off the air since then? He has not tweeted since April 12th. Now, he's all but disappeared. No announcement about what's going on. So, is he being punished? Is he being silenced? Does his contract prohibit the network from firing him? Nobody really knows, except that he is notably absent from the airwaves. Okay, getting on back to Syria, the Syrian War Report is saying that the militant-held pockets are crumbling in western Syria. It's just all coming apart, and we're getting down to the Syria that is still under control of the Syrian government and the Syria that's still under control of the U.S. government under the pretext of keeping the terrorists from coming back, which is nonsense. And apparently the Syrian militants who are surrendering are handing over missiles made in the United States and Israel. So Erdogan is now very upset. that the U.S. is supplying weapons to the Kurdish militants for free. And he's saying that the U.S. sent 5,000 trucks loaded with weapons to northern Syria. And he's basically complaining that Turkey cannot buy weapons from the U.S., but the U.S. Give these weapons and ammunition to terrorist organizations, which is what Erdogan sees the Kurdish separatists as being. So he's getting really angry about that, and it's only increasing tensions in the area. Now let's talk about Nikki Haley, who will get up there at the United Nations and she will scream and froth at the mouth and denounce mostly Russia. And then she'll bash Assad, then she'll go back to bashing Putin. And it's pretty obvious she's very, very hostile to Russia. And normally a diplomat is expected to be rather objective and unbiased. They're there to represent the interests of their government and their leadership and not get emotionally involved. But Nikki Haley doesn't seem to know how to do that. Press TV is out there saying that Haley is a representative of the U.S. deep state and clearly an enemy of Russia. I don't think we needed Press TV to tell us that. It's pretty much obvious at this point. And Nikki Haley, of course, has become the darling of the anti-Trump media. And she's clearly starting to go off on her own relative to what Trump actually wants done at the UN. And she's being cheered for that, saying she's not going to take any mansplaining. You know, she's showing her leadership. She's out on her own. No, Nikki Haley works for Donald Trump. He is the boss, and Nikki Haley's job is to represent the policy set by the boss at the United Nations and not go on off and try and ignite a war all on her own. And so it comes with little surprise that over at Information Clearinghouse, we're seeing an article that Trump may be getting ready to fire Nikki Haley because he's not happy with the fact that what he tells her to say at the UN and what she says at the UN turn out to be two different things. Now, proving just how spiteful the U.S. government can be about all of this stuff, the U.S. has denied temporary visas to the Bolshoi Ballet. Now, the Bolshoi Ballet is world famous, of course. They tour all over the world. They're considered ambassadors of goodwill, as are all artists. That basically, they ease tensions, they ease distrust by sharing the cultural roots. But this time, no, the U.S. is not allowing the Bolshoi Ballet dancers into the country. Let's take a phone call here from Mark in North Carolina. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Mike, I just want to ask you about with Tucker. I turned him on Friday because I usually, I very seldom watch any kind of mainstream news, but I do like to watch every once in a while Tucker. And I noticed they had that fool Brian Kilmeade on. I immediately turned it off.
Yep.
This neocon warmonger. But I'm wondering, he said, Kilmeade said something about that Tucker's supposed to be back or something. I don't know. Was he, what about Thursday and Wednesday? Do you know whether he was on then?
I don't think so. I don't tune into him because I've got other things that are going on that time of day. But Tucker's absence is now long enough to where other people are noticing and writing articles about it.
Okay, because I say this, Mike.
Wait a minute. Apparently Tucker Carlson has just tweeted that he will be back tonight. So mystery solved.
All right. Well, they might have tried it. They might have taken him off for a few days to try to intimidate them. And they did that to Judge Napolitano. I remember, I think last year.
Yeah.
Saying this, I don't like Fox News. In some ways, I despise them even worse than MSNBC and CNN because they pretend they're something they're not, and they pretend they're really patriots. They pretend they're so-called conservative. The same thing with Breitbart. I can't stand Breitbart, and I can't stand Glenn Beck. Because these people are all warmongers, neocons, and they pretend they try to say they're alternate or independent. media, which again they're not. So if they get rid of Tucker, and I suspect at some point they are going to get rid of him. Either that, or they're going to compromise him to the point that he'll be worthless. It's about time we take down Fox News. The fools that keep on watching these phonies, these warmongering phonies, they got to start understanding. There is nothing in the mainstream media. I understand there's One American News. I don't get it. I don't get it on my, on my cable. I'm getting rid of my cable pretty soon anyway. But I understand they're really pretty good. But other than that, whatever you have there on TV is pure, plain garbage. I mean, you get a lot better, you get a lot more news out of RT and Sputnik than you do out of anything out of the mainstream media.
No, absolutely.
So,
That's why the U.S. is trying to find some way where they can block the foreign press without it becoming a First Amendment case.
Well, they can try, but at least we should be able to still get them on the internet. I don't get RT right now on TV. Again, I used to get it when I had Dish, but I get it right. Go to RT.com and you pretty much get everything they've got.
Yep.
So, and like I said, it'd be hard for them to stop that, even if they were able to stop them for any TV stations from having them on. But as far as Fox News goes, they deserve. They really, if they do this to Tucker, they deserve to go out of business. Everybody else they have is basically neocon, including Sean Hannity. Hannity was good for a while there with Julian Assange, but when it came down, as soon as things kind of started getting hot for Assange again, he basically is just forgetting about him. Just letting him hang there. He had he helped Hannity with his story at one point, as far as Trump goes and all that. But as soon as things started getting hot for Assange, Hannity backed off, and he's not doing anything, as far as I can tell, to help this great patriot, this patriot for liberty and freedom.
Well, I want to know where Trump is, because Assange is one of the major players that basically helped put Trump in the Oval Office. And Trump seems to be turning his back not just on Assange, but on the independent media in general. It's like he's already decided he's not going to run in 2020 and he doesn't really need us anymore. And we're seeing all of these ridiculous proposed laws coming on down where we could be shut down just for questioning the official story on anything.
Well, Trump's running afraid. He thinks that the story the line they're giving, and that's not only from the liberal media, that's also from so-called conservative media such as Glenn Beck and Fox, is that Assange basically helped the Russians. That he was that Assange is basically an agent for Russia, which is of course nonsense. He's not an agent for any nation state. He's an agent for the truth, and that's what. And Trump, I think, is just running scared. Now, I don't know what you say with Haley, whether he's going to fire Haley. He sure should, but I wouldn't bet on it. She's the darling now of the neocons. She's the darling of the, and he just put a bum like Bolton in. I think Trump is basically, I do think it does look like he's going to run again. All right. But the way he's going now, he's going to lose. I'm hoping that Rand Paul might challenge him, might primary him. I know that Trump isn't happy about Paul now, going against Pompeo, but I think that I think that Paul has a good chance to be primary Trump, especially if Trump gets us bogged down in another war.
I would agree with you on that. I mean, Trump's already got a 2020 primary challenger. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. It's nobody I've ever heard of before. But apparently, a lot of Republicans are saying there may be an opportunity here. We shouldn't assume that Trump is going to get his second term. I mean, look at the disappointment that, what's her name? Feinstein had out in California. She didn't even make it past her primary race.
Well, what I would like to really see, and I think that could have an excellent chance, is a unification party with Rand Paul and, let's say, Tulsi Gabbard, or maybe Cynthia McKinney. I think that would have an excellent chance of winning, using the internet to collect money, to get the money they need, because it's not like the old days when they need the big corporate money anymore. We saw that in the last election. And I think they'd have a good, but they would both have to compromise on certain things. You know what I mean? There is differences. There's not much difference in war and peace. Both there would be peace candidates, but they would have to, compromise certain other differences.
Yep.
Some social issues, I guess, and economic issues, because Rand Paul doesn't think there should be any interference with business. I don't agree with that. I think you do need to interfere with business. You have to take antitrust actions against the ones that are too big. You see that now with the with tech companies, with the big tech companies, and I think he would have to compromise with Tulsi and stuff like that.
Okay, Mark, I'm going to have to let you go. We have to take a break for commercials, and we'll be back with more news after these few words.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. And once again, we're putting out the call for your support for Republic Broadcasting because we need to stay on the air. The big media corporations, they have very wealthy people underwriting them to keep feeding you the lies from which they make more money, make more war. we rely on you. And without you, we are just not going to be here any longer. So the postal address where you can send a check or money order, or if you prefer anonymity, cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. And the phone number to pledge to be a recurring subscriber is 800-724-2719, extension 03. The network thanks you. And I've gotten quite a few emails from some of you listeners informing you that you have donated to RBN. So thank you very much for that. All right, let's get on back to the war zones here. A lot of atrocities going on. Apparently over in Yemen, the U.S.-backed coalition bombed a wedding party. Now, normally weddings are supposed to be very happy occasions, but in this case, the Saudis bombed a wedding party, killing at least 20 people, including the bride. In fact, the vast majority of the victims who were killed were women and children. Don't see that on the corporate media, do you? Oh, gas attack in Douma, gas attack in Douma. Yemen? What's a Yemen? I don't know what it is. It's amazing here. Okay, 14 years ago, Pat Tillman was killed, and the government covered up the truth to his death to sell the war. Now, Pat Tillman was this just gift of propaganda to the U.S. military. He was playing in the NFL. He was a rising star, and he quit the NFL to enlist in the Army with his brother, and they were deployed to Iraq. And again, his picture was being used as a recruiting tool. You want to be, like Pat Tillman. And then he was shot and killed on the battlefield, 3 rounds from a NATO rifle. And they covered up the circumstances of the friendly fire shooting and said, oh, he was killed in combat. The Iraqis did it because they wanted to keep on using him as a recruiting tool. And, it's not a very good recruiting tool when it says, quit your career, join the Army, go to Iraq, get shot by your own people. That would cause anybody to maybe think twice about signing on the dotted line here. Now, the official story now is that Pat Tillman's unit was separated into 2 groups who wound up firing at each other because of the fog of war. Maybe. There's another theory that's put out by the True Democracy Party saying that Tillman had found out about the opium trafficking that was going on. The Taliban had eradicated the opiums, and all of a sudden, as soon as the U.S. Is in there, Pat Tillman found out about it, and according to this story, he was killed because he was going to go public on that one. I misspoke when I said Iraq before. He was killed in Afghanistan. Now then, speaking of Afghanistan, they're getting ready to have their election season, and there have been bombings at voter registration centers in Kabul. 63 dead so far. Somebody does not want the elections to happen. And again, among the victims, women and children. Now, ISIS is taking credit for the attack, and boy, the world is in a sorry state. It really, really, really is. Let's get on over to the Skripal case, the second dodgy British dossier after Tony Blair's here. And Britain is still out there trying to claim that they know the Russians did it. They can't share that information. It would compromise sources and methods. But interestingly enough, the site True Republica did a lot of research and discovered 81 existing patents relating to Novichok and its delivery systems in the United States, which is exactly what the Russians said at the OPCW summit, and which the corporate media totally ignored. Now, you need to remember, at the end of World War II, the leaders of Japan's Unit 731 were brought to the United States as part of Operation Paperclip. Operation Paperclip was the U.S. went into these countries, Japan, Germany. They found the very best scientific minds they could. They brought them to the United States. That's how we got Wernher von Braun. And the scientists at Unit 731, that was a germ warfare unit. And they were working for the United States after World War II, developing biological weapons. Now, not too long ago, the U.S. and other countries signed a treaty to get rid of chemical weapons, actually. Russia already has. The U.S. still has not. Going to take another break for commercials. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds, up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield Tactical Bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Now, over in Iran, as you know, we're getting near to Trump's deadline whether he's going to pull out of the P5+1 deal or not. And basically, most of the other signers are saying they're perfectly happy with the deal. Iran provably is not developing nuclear technology of any kind. And France and Germany are basically putting pressure on Trump. Save the Iran nuclear deal. It's working for them. And Iran has sent a message saying it's an all or nothing deal. You either accept the deal as we all signed it, or it's gone. There will be no renegotiation. We've already been through that process. And Iran knows what's really on the line here. Trump wants Iran to get rid of the missiles they have that could possibly reach Israel. While Israel, of course, has plenty of missiles that can reach Iran. You can see how this thing is all working out here. So that is really heating up. And apparently Iran is already in negotiations with China for their assistance in restarting the nuclear program. Now, Iran has already made deals with Russia to build civilian nuclear power stations. They've got one already. I think there's a second that's under construction. So my question is, exactly what kind of nuclear technology is Iran talking to China about? Because Iran is probably realizing that if the Iran nuclear deal is simply dumped by Trump, that invasion is not long after in coming. And rather than try and restart their own domestic nuclear weapon program, they may just try and acquire the technology from China. Be able to say, don't attack us now. We're not going to attack you. You don't attack us. That's what deterrence is all about. Now, a little bit of excitement over at the palace of the Saudi king over the weekend. Apparently, people were hearing gunshots being fired, and the king was taken to a military bunker, and everybody wondered if there was a coup d'etat, which apparently is a serious possibility in Saudi Arabia right now, given the way the Saudi royal family has been treating the Saudi people. As it turned out, somebody had flown a toy drone just a little too close to the palace, and the guards just were shooting to shoot it down. And apparently it took a lot of gunfire to get this thing down. But that's what all the hubbub was about. Last Friday was the fourth Friday of the Gaza protests. And again, Israel went on out there and started shooting people. 4 killed, 156 wounded. And it's just proof. The IDF is one of the bravest armies in the world against women, children, and unarmed fishing boats. Now, interestingly enough, in our State Department, every year they issue a report on human rights worldwide. And this year, they've stopped using the word occupied relative to the Palestinian territories. They just dropped that. Used to be occupied Gaza, occupied West Bank, occupied Golan Heights. Nope. So once again, pandering to Israel and Israel's desire for more empire. Doctors in Gaza are saying the Israelis are using some kind of devastating ammunition that is literally exploding inside the target and causing massive wounds, very severe damage to leg bones, because the IDF is deliberately shooting at joints like elbows, knees, and the leg bones, intending to permanently disable them. And so the Gaza doctors are saying it looks like some form of exploding ammunition is being used. And there is a lot of that out there. All of it banned under international law for use in war. There's a reason why the military are required under international treaty to use full metal jacket, so that it will not deform all that much. Military weapons, far from the image that you get from the gun grabbers, military weapons are designed to injure rather than kill. Yes, deaths do happen, but the thinking is very simple. If you wound an enemy soldier, you take 3 enemies off the battlefield. The wounded one and 2 more to take care of them. If you kill an enemy, they've only lost one. And it's always a numbers game. But apparently the Gaza doctors are saying there's some kind of exploding ammunition that's being used by Gaza. Meanwhile, over in the West Bank, there's been a sharp rise in attacks on Palestinians by Jewish extremists. And apparently the number of West Bank hate crimes this year has already exceeded the total number in 2017. And of course, it's only April 23rd. We're not even halfway through the year. We're hearing more and more reports, not just of vandalism and graffiti on the homes, but the cutting down of olive trees. Now, exporting olives is how these Palestinians make their money. And if you destroy an olive tree, it takes 10 years to grow a new one to the point where it produces a saleable crop. All right, we got some callers waiting on the line here. We're going to take some phone calls from Robert in Arizona. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Mike. I was interested. I didn't know that we had brought Japanese scientists back after the war, too. I knew about Operation Paperclip, but I didn't know that there was Japanese biological warfare agents in there. And I had watched the church committee hearings with William Colby.
Yeah.
And he was saying that the only thing that the United States does is they make a shellfish toxin for our, like, CIA guys or whatever, their suicide pills that they get. But everything else that they do, they mimic other countries for plausible deniability.
Well, it sounds reasonable. Although the shellfish toxin is hardly unique to the United States. I mean, everybody knows where to get it. It comes out of a cone shell down toward Australia. Australia's got the most toxically poisonous animals in the world. They've got this little tiny jellyfish called the irukandji. When it's in water, you can barely even see it. It's about an inch long, and it can kill you.
Wow. No, that was really interesting. That I didn't know that part about the Japanese ones. But I love your news show. You always give me something to think about.
Well,
I
good.
appreciate you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike.
We're going to let you go and switch over to Dustin in New Jersey. Aloha, Dustin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing, Mike? Hey, Mike, remember this was a couple years ago that this company over here invented this bullet. It was called Rippers. Remember that? It was called a Ripper bullet that would rip your insides up. It would I don't know if it was a mechanical bullet per se, but it was pretty, I think they started selling them and it got banned. You know, it's pretty graphic for something like that, right? I mean, that's pretty gross, right? You know,
well, back when I was living in Southern California, the only non-standard ammunition I ever used were Glazer safety caps, because those will basically not go through the wall into the adjoining apartment, which I thought was like a really good idea.
And Mike, on Canada, what's the word you heard lately on that? Because I read 2 dead. I don't know if it rose yet.
I don't have a final body count here. Apparently, they're just about to have a news conference, or they've just started a news conference on the incident. They seem to be sort of downplaying the fact that the perpetrator is Middle Eastern and appears to have been, a refugee. Can't offend those globalists. Can't offend the New World Order people.
So it wasn't an Amish guy this time, huh?
Say again?
I wasn't an Amish guy this time, huh?
No, it wasn't an Amish guy this time.
you know, Mike, is this getting to the point of ridiculous, though? They let these people, Mike, they let them go, the West, I'm talking about the West, let them go to fight in Syria, right? And then they come back here and they drive over people. You know, or in Britain, where they give them like a monthly payment, right? Like
yes.
They get a certain amount of like a welfare check a month. You know, but when's this going to end? I mean, can nobody see what I see and you see? I mean, we know what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, like they're letting these people go fight. And Mike, let me just say, you know, they get paid $50 a month, the Syrian army, to fight. The jihadists are getting $1,500 a month to fight.
Yeah.
It's a big difference, see? So that's why you got all these jihadis coming from all over the world, trained by the U.S., Britain and France, Saudi Arabia. You know, it's the same old group. And Mike, real quick, I'm going to switch before I get off the line. S-300s are now active in Syria because they told Israel, do not attack Syria. The Russians said,
yes,
do not attack Syria. The S-300s are active now.
Yes.
There can be grave consequences, they said. If that means the planes will get shot down. So.
Well, Israel will probably start bombing Gaza again just to appear to be tough.
Yeah, like we said, like this is not over. This has just begun.
Yeah.
You know, have a good show, Mike.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go and get on back to the news here. Now, here is a very stunning admission. In a radio interview, Brigadier General Zvika Fogel basically confirmed in the radio interview that the IDF soldiers, the snipers that are along Israel's boundary with Gaza, they are being directed to deliberately shoot at children. And this is, of course, very alarming. It could even be used as evidence of intent if Israeli leaders were ever tried for war crimes at the International Criminal Court. Of course, that's never going to happen. All right, let's grab another phone call. John in Rancho Cucamonga, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
How you doing, Mike? Good to talk to you. I just wanted to call and for the benefit of your previous caller, several callers ago, who expressed some surprise that in addition to Operation Paperclip after World War II, taking a number of German scientists, the Japanese scientists were also hired by the various intelligence agencies of the U.S. government. This was first pointed out to me shortly after the events of 9/11 in a book that I read entitled The Medusa File, M-E-D-U-S-A, Medusa File, and it's written by a man named Craig Roberts, not Paul Craig Roberts, the famous guy, but Craig Roberts. And Craig Roberts' website, I haven't been there in years, but it still may be around. The website is riflewarrior.com, riflewarrior.com, and I'm sure the Amazon probably has a listing of the book. It may be out of print, I'm not sure, but it may be in a library that you could get a copy, and this is where I found out about all the experiments being conducted on American prisoners of war. Will their bones break if they're hit with a sharp iron object after the guy's been out in sub-zero weather for 2 days and stuff like that. So they hired the worst of the best or the best of the worst or something like that. So anyway, that's all I really had.
Yeah, I'd read some of the history of this Japanese unit, and it was really ugly. I mean, they were operating on people and taking pieces out while they were still alive.
Right.
Craig Roberts' website is still up, and as a matter of fact, I'm posting a link to it now and to his book. But yeah,
it's an excellent book, Michael. It really was one of the first things where I really started figuring out what was going on in this country and in the world. When I read his book, and I read several others, and I'm still reading stuff about the previous wars and previous history of our country. So, so it's a very significant book. He came out to Southern California once, and he gave a talk at an offshoot of the John Birch Society known as the Welch Foundation. And I think he incurred the wrath of several people because when he was showing the smoke clouds billowing up out of World Trade Center Towers 1 and 2, he made some remark about how they look just like the devil or something, and looked, and people, and this guy's from Oklahoma, so, call it the Bible Belt, whatever you will. That didn't bother me too much, but when I went up to shake his hand, and this is about the only time I ever thanked anyone for their service in the military, because I still hadn't developed a firm foundation on what that really means. Mm-hmm. And he shook my hand, but he said, "Look," he says, "you don't owe me any thanks." He said, "We were all lied to." He served in Vietnam for 4 years. He was a sniper for the U.S. Army. He was an Army sniper, and then he also flew planes, I guess, for the Marine Corps. So he was in 2 different branches in 4 years in Vietnam. So He's been through it all, in my opinion, and he knows what's good and what's bad about what he obviously saw firsthand, and he's trying to. I think he's trying to right certain wrongs. That's what I think. So.
Okay. Well, I have the link for the book up at whatreallyhappened.com. So, John, thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to let you go.
Okay, Mike.
All right. Have a good day. And getting on back to the news here. Actress Natalie Portman has ignited a little bit of a firestorm. She was supposed to be awarded what's called the Genesis Award, and she's refusing to go because she doesn't want to be seen as supporting the policies of Benjamin Netanyahu, and everybody's already screaming, oh, she's an anti-Semite, she's a Jew hater, she's this, she's that. One Israeli politician wants to strip Natalie Portman of her citizenship because she's a dual citizen. But I got to tell you, my regard for this lady just went up a whole lot of points. And, normally she does support Israel. She's opposed to the BDS movement, but she's looking at what's happening down there at that Gaza border. It was really more than she could deal with. And when this all started, remember I kept saying, this could turn out to be Israel's version of the Amritsar massacre. Now, over in China, for some reason, a Chinese Navy ship has grabbed a small unmanned underwater vehicle being operated by a U.S. Navy survey ship. The vehicle itself is a commercial system. There's nothing classified about it. You go down to the underwater vehicle lot and you buy one. And apparently the ship was out there on a mission for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. So we don't know why China grabbed it, but that's what happened. Going to take another break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
If you are one of the millions of people who get migraines, you need to know about MigRelief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist who created MigRelief, the patented dietary supplement that addresses nutritional deficiencies in adults and children with migraines. Thousands of physicians and pharmacists recommend MigRelief.
Call 800-MIG-7354 or visit MIG911.com.
Did you know that neither the American Medical Association nor the American Bar Association were established to benefit the American people? Have you recognized that in our country, healthcare has little to do with health, and that our court system has nothing to do with justice? The priests of both medicine and law have been incentivized to implement a dark agenda on behalf of the Bilderbergers and their ilk. To protect ourselves and our progeny, we need to take a much closer look at how these two giant industries really work. Join me, Al Whitney, on In Defense of Humanity, Saturdays at 7 p.m. Central, as we expose the matrix and learn how not to consent to our own destruction.
Extendivite really works. Just listen to what some people have to say.
About 6 months ago, my wife bought Extendivite. She didn't tell me she was giving it to me. So after about 3 days, I said, maybe the weather's changed or something. I said, my legs feel really good. And she goes, well, I've been giving you this stuff, and it was the Extendivite. And you know that I'm about 75% better. I can actually climb stairs now, and I can get up out of chairs. I can even get down, and I got to work under a table or a computer table and work on a computer. I can actually get back up off the floor. You know what? It's an amazing product. I can't believe I didn't think anything short of having surgery was going to help.
Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid. Call now. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. And as you know, we're coming up on the meeting between the two Koreas and the meeting between Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. North Korea seems to be ready to make some major concessions and ratchet the tensions down. Meanwhile, South Korea has turned off their loudspeaker broadcasts into North Korea. If you don't know what I'm talking about, on the South Korean side of the DMZ, they have set up these gigantic arrays of high-powered speakers through which they simply play propaganda into the north. And apparently the sound carries far enough where a good deal of people in North Korea hear it. And it's been a way of, well, just annoying the neighbors for a long time. But they've now turned that all off, and that's a positive sign here. Now let's look at some of our weapon systems and the cost of war. There's an interesting article over in defensenews.com which is pointing out that the CVNs, which is the designator of the nuclear-powered super aircraft carrier, that they may not be cost-effective. That they're building these behemoths. They're going for about $15 billion. They get one every 5 years. But there's a very good analysis in this article saying that it would actually be much more cost-effective to basically spend a much smaller amount of money on smaller carriers that you could get one per year. And these carriers would be outfitted with short takeoff and landing or vertical takeoff and landing aircraft like, we hope, the F-35. And that it would be much more cost effective. And the whole point of this article is that there is so much money invested in this one platform. When you amortize it across the actual missions it's carrying out, it's really quite wasteful. And obviously it becomes a major, major target. The United States currently has 10 of these nuclear aircraft carriers, one of which is in a multi-year overhaul and refueling. And they're very impressive to look at. But in this age of high-speed missiles and robotic weapons, it is a little outdated. And maybe going with something a little smaller might be better, smaller and cheaper. Of course, the Pentagon doesn't like that. The military-industrial complex doesn't like that. Another article coming out of the National Interest is asking, is the F-35 really worth the $1.5 trillion price tag? And they're pointing out how this program has been mismanaged. It's perpetually over budget. It remains far behind schedule. And the Pentagon is engaged in what they call concurrent production of F-35s before the development cycle was over. All right, I'll explain what that means when we come back from station identification.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. It really does work like the review says it does. I cannot believe that after the first few days, I didn't feel as sluggish or clogged up. It has had a profound impact on my physical, emotional well-being. I'm skeptical as most people about products and their claims, and I never write reviews, but this is a wonderful product and I recommend it to everyone. Great product. It has brought my blood pressure from the mid-150s over the 80s to the mid-130s over mid-80s, along with diet and exercise in just the past couple of months. Excellent. Thank you, David. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth. What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero? The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. And we're talking about the F-35 and this article saying, is this thing really worth all the money being poured into it? And the program has been mismanaged. It's over budget. It's way behind schedule. And what they're doing in order to make it look like the F-35 is getting delivered somewhere around its delivery time is they're sending out F-35 jets that are not actually mission capable. They can be used for training, but they don't have all the bells and whistles because the bells and whistles haven't been designed yet. One of the biggest problems that the jet is dealing with is trying to be all things to all people. And that's never been a good strategy. In the long run, it doesn't actually save money because you spend more money taking this one design that's supposed to be for everybody and tinkering it to fit the different needs. And one of the big issues in that area is the F-35's vertical takeoff and landing, which was demanded by the Marine Corps. And the bulkier fuselage and extra fuel tanks for the Marine version resulted in performance degradation for all the variants of the F-35. So their performance is inferior to the fourth generation fighters it's intended to replace. And it's just nonsense. All right, let's take a phone call. Mike in Chicago, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, I was going to say the inflation seems to be an issue in the stock market today with bond yields inverting and short-term interest rates rising. And again, oil doesn't seem to be pulling back. And if we get above 70, that's going to be another type of a problem for the consumer who isn't going to be able to consume very much longer. But I think the only positive thing probably for the market would be this meeting next month when they raise interest. Well, when they have the Fed will either raise interest rates or not. But with Tim Un, with President Trump, that might be a positive for the market. But right now, again, it just looks like inflation is starting to rear its head, and I don't think we have the ability to keep up with our debt with rising interest rates.
Yeah, we don't have an ability to keep up with our debt, period, even with the interest rates staying where they are. It's just, that's the trap of private central banking. The debt always exceeds the available money supply.
Right. So they're probably going to have to try to keep this market propped up because you got these pension funds that, like in California and Chicago and around the country that are, they don't have enough taxpayers to keep paying into the system, and then they're going to have to start cutting back on services.
Yeah.
Like education and any police, fire, all of it. And so maybe we're going to have to start cutting back on military expenses and start doing something else with this economy and addressing these real issues.
I'd love to see that happen. But unfortunately, our current leadership, Trump included, thinks it's more important to spend the American people's tax money on the machinery of war than on the American people. And that definitely needs to change.
Yeah, definitely. I don't, our manufacturing, I don't believe, is it, are we exporting, vehicles? Are we actually producing everything here? It's parts and the labor and everything here, like with Ford or GM? I thought GM was in trouble, actually. They got a bailout, remember? How many years ago?
They got a bailout. Well, a lot of the automotive companies have open factories in other countries. Trump is trying to lure them back, and certainly a lot of the parts are being made in foreign countries as well. Our manufacturing, we still manufacture, but nowhere near the scale that we did 30 years ago.
Yeah. Well, we don't have the capability of manufacturing high technical electronics, and besides Boeing, I would think, besides Boeing, that industry. I mean, if we needed to create parts and planes to fight another war, I don't think we have what it takes to manufacture any of those parts.
Well, they throw something together, but that's no guarantee of quality, with the final finished product. But if a global war starts up, a lot of those supply chains are going to go away. That's just the long and short of it.
Yeah. Well, like I say, I think the three players are going to be China, the Middle East, and China, the Middle East, and us, the West.
Well, don't forget Russia.
I'm sorry, Russia. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Yeah. So if one of us goes down, it'll just be between the other two. I think I told you that before, but I really hope we don't get to that. And we're trying to turn around here in the United States, but consuming and living beyond our means and playing these same old games over and over and not stopping these global wars and hegemony and all the rest of it, it just doesn't seem to happen. And whether it's going to lead to something huge, like I just said, somebody falling, I really hope we don't go there. But
well, I'm in agreement with you. I don't want to see us go into that global war. My concern is that if the U.S. gets into a real war with Russia and China aligned together against us, there's no way that we can win. And unfortunately, that means at some point somebody will hit the panic button and resort to the nuclear arsenal.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. We're not even prepared for that at all. I mean, we're not going to be able to get down into those bunkers. They're not going to let everybody down there.
No, there's no room.
Yeah.
I mean, Mount Weather is able to hold the White House staff. The Greenbrier is able to hold Congress, and there's that resort that's down there, I think, in North Carolina, where the Supreme Court goes to hide on out. And then, of course, the military have all their command bunkers. They got all kinds of them all over this rock. But no, ordinary people who paid for all of this, we will not be allowed inside.
Right, exactly. And if they do have a nuclear situation, you know what? If they got 2, 3 years, if they got 5 years of food supply, by the time they come out, everything's going to be still radioactive. I mean, really, it's a terrible situation.
It is a terrible situation, and I know probably the people who have access to these bunkers are thinking they're going to go on down. They've got a couple of years of food, and they're going to come on up, and the world will be beautiful and green, Garden of Eden, and they'll just start civilization all over. But they could very easily come on up to an absolute dead planet. Not just radioactive, but the entire food chain has collapsed, and there's, after the stored food runs out, they're going to be eating each other.
Yeah, wow, exactly. Mike, real quick, I'll let you go. I'm surprised Fukushima didn't do as much damage as it did to the Pacific Ocean.
Well, we don't know how much damage has been done, and certainly neither Japan nor General Electric or the fishing industry as a whole wants anybody to be concerned about it. But right now, Claire and I are dealing with, unfortunately, a lot of deaths and illnesses at her church. Two of the singers in her choir passed away in the last month from this incredibly aggressive cancer. And when you look at the back of the bulletin every Sunday, it's, pray for this family cancer, pray for this family cancer, pray for this family cancer. Other people have noticed it as well. The numbers are way out of line with the official statistics for the island of Oahu. Are we dealing with the effects of Fukushima? Are we dealing with the effects of glyphosate? Some years back, apparently, the Navy had a training accident and fired 2 depleted uranium shells into the hills right above our house here. Those have never been found. Now, if those are corroding and oxidizing and getting into the water table, that's another possibility. I still cannot find a neighborhood-by-neighborhood cancer incidence map. It's like it's classified. They don't want you to know. Okay?
Yeah, very good. Environment is key. If you have a poison environment, there's going to be some kind of a link to it. Thank you very much for talking, Mike. Okay.
All right, we're going to let you go here and get on back to the news. First, we're going to do a shout out to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. Getting on back to the F-35, it was billed and sold as the do-it-all airplane, which I guess they see it as a flying Swiss Army knife. Huge cost overruns, delivery issues, quality control problems. Apparently, one thing it doesn't do is defend itself against missiles that are coming to kill it. I assume that it's got flares and anti-radar chaff, but they're talking about something a little more dynamic, and sure enough, the Pentagon is out there saying the F-35 can achieve missile defense capability if we just spend a little more money on it. I would like to see a country in which all of our tax money goes to our schools and hospitals, and every time the Pentagon wants a new bomber, they're holding bake sales out in front of the local supermarket. That's what I want to see in this country here. Now, Japan has come up with another idea. They are inquiring of America's defense contractors if it would be possible to make a hybrid aircraft combining features of the F-22 and the F-35. And I would say probably better off just starting, at the drawing board and going for what you want, because neither one of these planes have performed as advertised. The F-22 is a very agile fighter. It is very stealthy, but it can't climb too high because of that breathing system. The F-35 problems could fill a book. But so Japan wants a formal proposal for a new fighter that would combine the F-22 and F-35 and could be superior to both of them. In the case of the F-35, that's not going to be difficult. Japan is also talking to the Pentagon about military cooperation in space. And apparently, U.S. Deputy Defense Secretary Pat Shanahan and Japan's Space Policy Minister Masashi Matsuyama have discussed how to advance cooperation in space amid tensions in the Asia-Pacific region. Now, I am obviously very concerned about the idea of combat in low Earth orbit. I understand, going to be communication satellites, going to be surveillance satellites, but when they start getting shot by ground interceptors or air-launched interceptors, they're going to break into these tiny fragments. And these tiny fragments are just going to go off into other orbits. And it's going to just become this shotgun blast of debris running around the Earth, smashing up other satellites. And it could be a domino effect, and it could turn low Earth orbit into literally a minefield of shrapnel that we can no longer safely launch through. But unfortunately, the planners of war, they never think in those terms. It's always, we have to win now, and we'll worry about the consequences later. Which is why we have all these barrels of abandoned munitions on the floor of the ocean off the coast of Oahu. Japan has also signed a deal with Canada, allowing them to use each other's military equipment. They're calling this the Acquisition and Cross-Servicing Agreement, which steps up military cooperation between Canada and Japan and allows them to use each other's military equipment in various operations. So it gives them a little bit more flexibility. Everybody getting ready for the big war. All right, let's talk about domestic politics, because there's a lot of stuff going on over here. As you know, the Democratic National Committee has filed what appears to be a very frivolous nuisance lawsuit against Trump, Russia, and WikiLeaks over the hacked emails. And I think at first blush, they did it just to give the corporate media another reason to push the collusion story as if it's current news. Because everybody's tired about this. Mueller's been looking for over a year, and he's found nothing. So how do you repackage a story? Well, we'll wrap it in a lawsuit. And so they're off and running. And Democratic National Committee Chairman Tom Perez on NBC's Meet the Press was out there saying, we've seen a mountain of evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. And he went on to say, I think they failed to impose sufficient cost on Russia for this dramatic and reckless and unprecedented hack because this administration is compromised. And I want to make sure we send a very clear signal. Well, first of all, there is no such crime as collusion under U.S. law. But more to the point, if you want to talk about collusion, let's talk about that Uranium One deal. More on that a little bit later. Article coming on out of Russia Today is saying that this DNC lawsuit may blow back on them. Because if a judge doesn't outright dismiss it on the absurdity of it, then you're going to go to discovery. And discovery is where things will be exposed. Now, apparently on Meet the Press, Tom Perez was asked point blank if this lawsuit against Trump, Russia, and WikiLeaks was ordered by Hillary Clinton. He dodged the question and said, you're going to have to ask Hillary Clinton on that one. Now, obviously, the lawsuit, including WikiLeaks, is a serious threat to press freedom. And basically, the lawsuit is claiming that WikiLeaks used unofficially obtained materials in their reporting. Well, newspapers do that all the time. And getting on back to this movie we talked about in the first hour, The Post, that's how the Pentagon Papers came on out. That's how COINTELPRO came on out. WikiLeaks is not doing anything that the rest of the corporate media was doing. But this is another attempt to use lawfare to shut down those who are not towing the official story. And apparently Hillary Clinton, as she continues her everybody's to blame except me tour, is out there applauding efforts to censor the independent media. She thinks it's time for the independent media to go, we got to stop them talking about Vince Foster and Cattlegate and Travelgate and, you know, certainly the Uranium One deal and certainly the email scandal. They just need to shut up and sit quietly. WikiLeaks has responded by countersuing the Democrats, and they're saying discovery is going to be very, very interesting. Trump is countersuing the Democrats, and he's demanding the actual DNC servers because the DNC lawsuit is claiming the servers were hacked, but they've never been inspected. The FBI never looked at them. The CIA never looked at them. Nobody ever looked at them except this private consulting agency hired by the DNC. They backed off and said, no, we're not sure. Timestamps on the leaked emails indicate it was not a hack over the internet. It was a dump to a high-speed flash drive. And that points the finger toward Seth Rich, who's still his murder is still unsolved. So this is going to blow up in the Democrats' face because Trump is going to get that server and it's going to be looked at by experts to see what really happened. And if it turns on out there's no evidence of Russian hacking, of course, it's been so long, who knows what's been planted on that device. This is going to get really interesting. All right, we're going to take a break here, and we will be right back.
My name is Don Wiskin, and at 42 years old, I suffered a massive heart attack, lost 35% of my heart to damaged tissue, and was supposed to spend the rest of my life on disability. What did I do? I took Extendivite, a garlic and cayenne mix of 7 herbs which rebuilt my heart and gave me back my life. For over 17 years now, I have made this formula available to you so you don't have to suffer the same thing I did. Clean your blocked arteries and strengthen your heart and boost your natural immune system. I'm 60 years old now and I still work every day. To get your Extendivite, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com. Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
For the past 14 years, it's been my privilege to host the National Intel Report on RBN, to offer a platform to interview exceptional guests, provoke critical thought, and examine evidence, whether real, fake, or somewhere in between, and allow our audience to call in and participate with your input and questions in order to help us all reach an educated decision and arrive at our own truth. Our world has changed. It's now been turned on its head. Real is now considered fake, and mainstream fake is now pushed as real, rather than any clear thinking, consensus, or rationale.
Those few remaining beacons of light, the ones still shining through the mainstream media lies, propaganda, and deception, are being viciously attacked at every level through attempts at censorship, threatening advertisers, jailing hosts, and even killing journalists brave enough to speak the truth to you. We are in a war for our very freedom and existence, and through these despicable acts, freedom haters, collectivists, and communitarians have shown that they will stop at nothing to blot out these last few beacons of light. Truth is becoming increasingly more difficult to unmask, just as the term unmasking itself is spoken by those usually anonymous sources. They promote their lies, wishing to mask the truths by ignoring it, vilifying it, or conspiratorializing it into a black hole abyss.
Regrettably, RBN has reached the tipping point, and through internal audit and actuarial review, it has now been determined that the only life raft of survival to this network is to go the way of PBS, that being audience-supported. Like a cornered animal, the left with veracity is pulling out all the stops with every effort to effectively blacken our beacon forever. Help us, folks. Help yourselves. Don't let our light stop shining. Our motto has always been, because you can handle the truth. It's time to review your budget, folks. If you want the truth to keep flowing through RBN, go to republicbroadcasting.org and become a regular monthly donor of $30, $40, $50, or $100 or more a month and ensure you keep the truth flowing.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And here's a very interesting story. As you know, it took the Department of Justice 8 months to turn over the electronic communication, the document which the FBI used to launch the original counterintelligence investigation against the Trump campaign. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The source for all of this was Hillary Clinton's confidant, Sidney Blumenthal, pushed anti-Trump memos to the Obama State Department written by Clinton hatchet man Cody Shearer and passed to Jonathan Weiner. There was no official intelligence used to start the investigation. There was no evidence that any wrongdoing had taken place. It was just a lot of suppositions, and it was politically motivated. It's time for it to come to an end right now here. Okay, now more trouble for the Democratic National Committee. The Russia report is starting to lose its luster as the primary architects, Comey, Brennan, and Clapper, are outed as leakers, liars, and Trump haters. And this lawsuit is an act of desperation. So, but a reminder, all of it centers on that server. The DNC has not allowed any investigators to review its IT systems. So we'll see where that's going to go. But Discovery can go pretty much anywhere. Now, let's talk about the economic news. There's been a surprising development over in Europe. The European Union is now pushing the Trump administration to back off sanctions against Russia, because these sanctions are harming the economies of Europe far more than they are the economy of Russia. And Europe just wants to go back to doing business, selling produce, trade across the border. They've had it with all of this, stink face at each other, and they want it to be over here. German members of parliament are saying it's time to bring Russia back into the G8, saying that peace in Europe is possible only with the active participation of Russia. We're seeing the rest of the world just throwing up their hands and saying all of this brinksmanship has gone too far. And it's time to just turn around and go on back to where Russia was buddy-buddy with everybody. Go back to doing business here. All right. Now, again, we're looking at the situation in Toronto. Latest report is 9 dead, 16 injured. Still not many details on the perpetrator other than that he was described as Middle Eastern. And forget about the fact that some of these people were exposed to jihadi combat. You're bringing people in from areas that already have tremendous social problems. And of course, they're going to bring that socialization with them. It's not like they step off the boat or the plane and instantly their entire interior character changes to something that assimilates with the American people. So apparently over in London, Dr. Martin Griffiths, who's a consultant surgeon at Barts Health NHS Trust, said that there is just soaring violence in Sadiq Khan's London. It's starting to look like South Africa. And he's predicting there will be a summer of carnage, and a lot of this is being done with knives and machetes, which undermines the gun grabber argument that if we ban all guns, we will live in peace. No, you don't. What was that saying they used to have years ago? God made man and Colonel Colt made them equal. So, again, looking all over Europe, all over Great Britain, all over our country, now Canada, this open borders agenda is causing so much damage. Now, over in Germany, Angela Merkel has basically told German savings account holders they will be held liable if the Eurozone fails. It's a very chilling warning, and Merkel has abandoned her opposition to a common European deposit insurance aimed at offering some protection across the bloc, but said that her countrymen would be liable in the event of it hitting the rocks. So Germany, like the United States, basically plunders the people to save the banks. Should be the other way, actually. It's our money supply. It's our country. Apparently, the BBC is finally admitting that their employees are all secretly vetted by MI5 to make sure somebody with bad thoughts doesn't get into the Beeb. We'll be right back with a phone call after these few words.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
I'm getting older and noticing that my body just doesn't work as well as it used to. So I like to keep fit as possible by hitting the gym a few times a week. Recently, I started having a nagging bicep pain, and it got so bad I couldn't even lift the weights. When I was complaining about it to a friend, he told me about Angioprim. He said chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in veins and arteries that may cause blockages. You know, after just 1 week of taking Angioprim, the pain was gone, and now I'm back in the gym full strength. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. So to learn more, go to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com, or talk to a trained consultant. Call Angioprim toll free at 877-882-7221. You'll feel better with more energy. Call 877-882-7221 or go to the website angioprim.com.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AROutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus magful clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AROutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
They're stealing down on Wall Street and in Washington too. You know, it makes me wonder, what's a guy on Main Street to do? Always tried to be an honest, upstanding kind of guy. I must admit lately I thought about giving something else a try. Oh, I wanna be a pirate. I wanna sail the seven seas, yeah, I wanna be a pirate. I wanna do just...
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Let's go to the phones and talk to Tony in Puerto Rico. Aloha, Tony. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Mike. Yeah, I want to ask a quick question. I just need you to clear up something for me, please. I'm a little confused by it.
Yeah.
Do you think that John F. Kennedy Jr. was assassinated, or he died by, as they call it, spatial disorientation?
I think he was assassinated because he was talking about running for the Senate seat that Hillary Clinton eventually sat in.
And who you think was the culprit?
Somebody connected to the Clintons, I would say. I mean, if you go to the top of my main page, there's a JFK Jr. article there. It's like third line from the bottom all the way to the right.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
All right. Thanks. We're going to let you go. Okay. Now then, apparently, there's this guy named Tim Kennedy. He's a UFC middleweight, former Green Beret. And he came on out with this very well-written tweet about why we need guns. And he talks about past tyrannical despots abusing their people. He talks about the Nazis, talks about Stalinist Soviet Union. The only thing that holds the government in check is an armed populace. That's why the Founding Fathers gave us that Second Amendment. Now, the gun grabbers are out there trying to propagandize us all and say, oh, well, you know, the guns are taking lives and you don't really need to protect yourself. I have been running on a statistic for a while that says every year 1.6 million crimes are thwarted in progress by citizens with legally owned firearms. As it turns out, my numbers are a little out of date. And the CDC did their own study and discovered that every year 2.46 million crimes are stopped mid-progress. They're prevented from happening by law-abiding citizens owning legal firearms. Here's where it gets interesting. The study was suppressed. They didn't want the numbers to get on out there because CDC is on board with pushing this gun confiscation agenda. You don't need a gun to protect yourself. You're perfectly safe. The police will take care of you. Which is nonsense. But here we have the CDC that they know that far more crimes are thwarted with firearms than are committed with them. Because that 2.46 million defensive uses of guns is 3.6 times more than the number of times guns are used offensively. That's a very good ratio. Now, as you know, there was this shooting at a Tennessee Waffle House, and the suspect, Travis Reinking, appeared to be delusional and believed Taylor Swift was harassing him. And according to the report taken by police, EMS stated Reinking said he believed everyone, including his own family and police, were involved in the plot, which sounds to me like a bad reaction to prescription psychiatric medication. Now, the reason this story did not get a lot of play is the shooter was stopped, and a 29-year-old guy, James Shaw Jr., basically tackled the Waffle House shooter and disarmed him. And so that was a really good thing. And once again, we find out the FBI knew about this guy, knew he had a few blank spots on the hard drive, and they even interviewed him at one point. And they recommended his guns be taken away by the police. Apparently that didn't happen. But the FBI is out there trying once again to defend themselves for having known there was a mass shooter about to attack and doing nothing about it. Were they hoping for another bloodbath to push the gun grab agenda? Maybe. Now, one of the arguments you will get from the gun grabbers is they try and play on your sympathy for children. You know, the guns are killing children. The guns are killing children. This is a liberal thing. And yet these are the same liberals who are out there saying it's okay to kill unborn babies. Yeah, it's okay to kill these kids, but these kids, bad. Got to take your guns away. Killing these kids is good. You know, what would happen if abortionists actually used guns instead of needles to do what they do? How would the liberals react to that? Probably their heads would explode. Okay, over in the city of Lakewood, they're starting a database where they want everybody in the city that has a security camera to register that camera with the department. And the reason for this is apparently they've solved several high-profile cases using surveillance footage from privately owned security cameras, and now they just want a database where they can say, the crime happened here, these people have a camera, these people have a camera, these people have a camera, and these people have a camera. I think it's actually a pretty good idea myself. So let's talk about human-caused global warming. Insert ominous music here. Story out of mountainjackpot.com. Sudden spring storm shuts down Highway 67, causes havoc in region. Apparently they had a brief blizzard, very intense, very short. A lot of snow came on down, and it caused major transportation problems in the region. I love this next story. This one came out of the Terrebonne County Register saying enough is enough already. Just wringing their hands over the fact that winter has just lasted so long and the snow is still coming down and we're officially in spring since March 20th. And it's still coming on down here. We've actually had an unusually cold spring here in Hawaii. I know it doesn't look like it with the t-shirt and everything. Story coming out of the La Crosse Tribune. Storms bring in snowiest, coldest April and cause plenty of problems. And apparently Wednesday they had their third snowstorm this month. Stranded some people. Everybody's wondering what's going on. Well, what's going on is we're sliding into a new little ice age, a new Maunder minimum. And the carbon Nazis are still out there screaming, oh, it's global warming, it's global warming. Global warming makes cold weather. Just trust us on that one. Apparently NPR is coming out with a new streaming series that is again, pushing that narrative. It's all human-caused global warming, and that's what causes the cold weather. They got to think you're really dumb if they're trying to put that one over on you. So, all right. Now, SunTrust Bank has admitted that there has been a data breach and that data belonging to up to 1.5 million customers has been exposed and passed on to a criminal third party. And SunTrust is going to offer free identity protection, but that's hardly just compensation for all the work people are going to have to do to just keep an extra eye, on their credit card bills and various other things. It's a hugely inconvenient thing to happen, and you have to wonder, what is going on where they're just not able to secure the data. Now, a little bit of good news. And again, this gets back to the fact that here in Hawaii, a lot of gardening, a lot of Roundup weed killer, and a lot of cancers at Claire's Church. California has defeated Monsanto in court and will go ahead with listing glyphosate as a carcinogen under Proposition 65. Remember, Proposition 65 passed and said products with known carcinogens in them had to be so labeled. And of course, Monsanto fought it and said, you're going to kill our business. You can't do this. And it was a long, drawn-out civil litigation. It is now over. And the appeals court sided with the state of California and the Center for Food Safety, saying that, yes, any product containing glyphosate has to have a label. It has to be listed as a known carcinogen. Over in Germany, they've passed laws to massively restrict glyphosate. People are waking up to this. People are waking up to the fact that we have companies that are being allowed to sell us very dangerous, toxic materials, all in the name of a fast buck. You can't trust the government to keep you safe. They're not interested. They just want to know how much their share of the profits from these products is going to be, how much they're going to get at the next election campaign. So Germany is now getting rid of their Roundup. It's estimated 40% of all crop growing land has been treated with the toxic chemical. And apparently they're establishing additional restrictions for the use of glyphosate in agriculture, except in areas that easily erode and cannot be exposed to heavy machinery. So they're going to allow it in certain limited contexts. Now, this next story, this is kind of a little weird, okay? And it's a classic case of how liberals can take a good idea and come up with a really bad law. And apparently there is a bill currently pending in the legislature that will ban the sale of all books that include traditional Christian views on marriage and sexuality. And this is coming out of Assembly Bill 2943, which makes it an unlawful business practice to engage in a transaction intended to result, or that results in the sale or lease of goods or services to any consumer that advertise, offer to engage in, or do engage in sexual orientation change efforts with an individual. In other words, this bill is out there to protect the transgenders from being told, get out of the ladies' room, or something like that. Here's the problem. The Bible itself contains language about what a marriage is supposed to be. So if this bill passes, it could, in theory, ban the sale of the Bible. I don't think it's going to be enforced that way, but it shows how poorly these things get thought out by the liberals here. Okay, we're going to take a phone call. Francis in North Carolina. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha to you both.
Aloha.
You mentioned about this the security issue with SunTrust or whatever, and data being breached or whatever have you by some security concerns or whatever, I guess computerized, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reminded of the scenario with one of the credit reporting bureaus or whatever, which there are at least 3 or 4, maybe more by now, who knows, that had an issue with their information being breached or whatever, security being breached, and millions of people having their credit history or whatever being confiscated or compromised or whatever have you. But the problem is, that was part of the problem, but the other part of the problem was that they were looking to charge people for a service to guard and protect whatever information was left over.
Yes.
That had not been compromised. So what is to say that this financial institution won't charge people for protection of their account or whatever, if there's anything left, from being commandeered or whatever?
Well, they've already said they're going to provide the identity protection for free. And, of course, for those who want a little extra protection, there's always LifeLock. And you know, but again, the best way to keep your financial stuff secret is keep your money in cash and keep it at home. You know, nobody can hack that cookie jar.
Except for a sledgehammer.
Well, they have to actually be in your home for that, at which point, you know, you sick the dog on them.
Depends on what kind of dog it is, but yeah, never mind. Okay, this I would query that scenario time between manual handling of situations like that compared to being computerized and deal with, oh no, now what happened, and not being able to get through or whatever.
Yes.
Hence the reason why, even though the local community bank wants to try and get people to go green or whatever and just do all the banking online, I just simply express that I apologize, but I'm not that versed with that kind of thing. I prefer to have the manual copy mailed to me instead, but thank you anyway. They still mail the statement.
Yes.
In appreciation of that sentiment. So even if something happens computerized, I have a hard copy version of it, and if they try to say otherwise, guess what? They cook their goose. Later.
All right, talk to you later. Yeah, I'm a little old-fashioned myself. I want a paper statement, something I can put in the filing cabinet. I don't like electronic transfer. I want to write out a check, and maybe that's because many years ago there was actually a very early social media platform called CompuServe, and it was actually run by the H&R Block people to utilize their computers in the off-tax season months. And they had set up ways where you could do payment from your bank account to your various, the gas bill, the electric bill, things like that. And there was a massive screw up. And it caused everybody a huge amount of inconvenience. And that's why, yeah, I want paper. Give me a paper statement. I'm going to give you a paper check. Especially when you look at how easy it is to get into computers, apparently, to get into the databases, to hack the credit cards with the little radio chips in them. I think the less you're involved in that technology, the more cash-based you are, the safer you're going to be. And I think that really is the way to go. I think we've allowed our technology to become decadent to the point of being a danger to our society. It just makes us more and more vulnerable to the criminal underworld to be using all these systems. All right, we got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be back with more phone calls, I hope, and our third hour guest.
Did you know that neither the American Medical Association nor the American Bar Association were established to benefit the American people? Have you recognized that in our country, healthcare has little to do with health, and that our court system has nothing to do with justice? The priests of both medicine and law have been incentivized to implement a dark agenda on behalf of the Bilderbergers and their ilk. To protect ourselves and our progeny, we need to take a much closer look at how these two giant industries really work. Join me, Al Whitney, on In Defense of Humanity, Saturdays at 7 p.m. Central, as we expose the matrix and learn how not to consent to our own destruction.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. There's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
Do you worry a lot? Whether you're a college student, busy professional, parent, or grandparent, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in 1 to 2 weeks. Call 1-800-758-8746 or calmandclever.com.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
35 million people in the United States suffer with debilitating migraines. If you or a loved one are one of them, you need to know about MyGrelief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist that formulated and patented the MyGrelief migraine formula. MyGrelief is a non-prescription dietary supplement recommended by neurologists, pharmacists, and pediatricians to address nutritional deficiencies in both adults and children over 2 with migraines. Try MyGrelief for 3 months and see the powerful difference it can make in your life, or get your money back, no questions asked. Go to MIG911.com or call 800-MIG-7354. You can change your life today.
So if you suffer from migraines, don't wait. Call 800-MIG-7354. That's 800-MIG-7354 or visit MIG911.com.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. Coming up on the top of the hour, and our guest. And speaking of computer insecurity, I'm looking at my email box. I am being flooded with all kinds of emails with bogus attachments or phishing attacks, and it really is out of control. And it seems like nobody really wants to do anything about it, but it has become a major, major problem. All right, so getting on back to what happened up in Toronto, 9 people have been killed by this driver, and apparently this Middle Eastern individual literally drove down the sidewalk for 2.5 kilometers. That's a long, long distance to go, and apparently then abandoned the van and tried to run, but they did catch up with him. So it's a terrible thing to see happen, or to have happen to somebody that you know. But again, it's a reminder that nations have a natural right to decide who does and does not come into their country from other parts of the world, and to basically say people who are violence prone or have other issues, we don't want them. And there's nothing racist about that. It's common sense. But we need to get our borders back under control, and we have to do it right now. And certainly from Trump's point of view, if he does not immediately get a national voter ID law enacted, he's going to lose Congress in November, and he's going to be a single-term president. Because the Democrats are openly admitting they're using the illegal immigrants to vote Democratic. They're openly registering illegal immigrants to vote out in California. These are all crimes. Why are people not being arrested for this? That's what I want to know. Anyway, let's see. Apparently the Royals have a new baby. It's kind of fun stuff here. Apparently Rand Paul has changed his mind, and he's going to vote yes for Mike Pompeo. So that's a new development there. Another article talking about how the Waffle House shooter in Tennessee was interviewed by the FBI before the shooting, and they didn't do anything about it. We seem to see this happen over and over and over again. Did they want this guy to shoot up the Waffle House to push the gun grabber agenda? Thankfully, that other gentleman, the 29-year-old, intervened, and the shooting didn't happen. Are they going to try it again? Another one. Apparently, this YouTube user who put up this video of his pet dog giving the Nazi salute has been fined somewhere around $1,000 for that. Apparently, you will not make fun of the Führer, or something like that. Everybody's too touchy. You know that? All right, we're going to take a break for station identification. We're going to be back with our guest, Dan McGowan, after these few words.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 3. And for some reason, we are unable to connect with our scheduled guest, Dan McGowan. We're trying to hunt him down. We're leaving voicemails and so forth and so on. So let's just open up the phone lines and let people start calling on in and talking about what they want to talk about, because I basically finished all my prepared talking points today. Okay, now, I'm trying to get, okay, here we go. I'm going to send him an email and say that we're trying to reach you. Live radio's a lot of fun here. Okay. All right, we're going to send that one. Let's see. The number is 315-789-3524. That's the number I have. Okay. I don't know what's going on. All right. So, close that down here. Get on back to some news. Okay. Apparently, boy, people are just getting downright rude here. Milo Yiannopoulos has been shouted out of a New York City bar by Democrats chanting "Nazi scum, get out." Whatever happened to civility in public discourse? I mean, we're descending into mobocracy, where everybody's just shouting and screaming at each other, hurling insults. That's not the way to have a polite society here. But apparently liberals are celebrating. Okay, we're going to take a phone call. Chris in Las Vegas, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, thank you so much, Michael. I thought I'd let you know I listened earlier to the Brand X channel of Mr. AJ, and he has a fairly frequent guest on there called Zach, who's a pretty deep-level Army intel guy that puts some pretty relevant and salient information on the radio over there quite frequently. He was headed out to Dubai this morning at San Francisco International Airport and was circumvented from his accessing the ticket area and spirited off to a inquisition room by the TSA and the Department of Homeland Security, and I think perhaps the FBI was also mentioned also. And he had a pair of external drives with him, I imagine terabyte or better, and he was traveling with another guy, and they were trying to claimed that they thought he may have dangerous information or scandalous, embarrassing, or some other pretextual ruse to try to circumnavigate the warrant requirement to be able to obtain information from his private instruments and the equipment that he had with him. And so apparently he got hold of his attorney, who intervened and was able to have the drive transferred to the attorney, and they're examining this, and he was supposed to be able to fly out later without the drives. But this individual is pretty high level on the intel, and apparently some of the stuff on there may have been things that were incriminating to Hitlery, the Comey and Mueller investigations, foreign arms trading and sex abuse and child trafficking and so on and so forth. So this was a fishing expedition trying to circumnavigate the warrant requirement based on probable cause of something they actually knew, as if what they had a fear that might be. Of course, fear is fantasy envisioned as reality, and they are just on a fishing expedition and trying to circumvent the need to get a warrant.
Yeah, well, it does sound like that's what it is. It's a fishing expedition. And, you know, TSA, Department of Homeland Security, tend to operate with this attitude of trying to bluff and bully you into going along with what they want to see. And you don't have to. Of course, they do have, you know, the power to prevent you from getting on that airplane if you don't do what they tell you to do. But I'm glad this individual stood up for his rights. He contacted his lawyer. But again, when I travel, I have a specific machine I travel with because the TSA dropped and smashed a very expensive laptop of mine up in Seattle. And so when I travel, I leave my nice machines home, and I got this little tiny XP netbook, and all it does is mail and web browsing. There's nothing else on it at all. And if TSA and Department of Homeland Security want to waste their time going through it, fine and dandy, there's nothing there. And so that's one way to handle it. But I understand there's a principle at work here, and that's called the Fourth Amendment. The government is not supposed to invade your privacy unless they have good reason to know that some criminal activity has taken place. This idea of it might be, we're concerned that you may be doing this, that's not good enough. That's absolutely not good enough.
You're precisely correct, Michael. My observation is the TSA and the Department of Homeland Security are really reiterations of the Nazi SS, the Stasi, the secret police, the brown shirts, if you will, and the Gestapo from Nazi Germany, reformed here in America under the so-called Prescott Bush's in the United States Code 2358, the original Strom-Thurmond National Defense Authorization Act of 1961. And this is where part of this stuff comes from. This is ancient Nazi stuff that was brought over here to America. Of course, it's given new lipstick on the pig and given new titles and labels so the American people won't clearly know what it is. But these are lawless agencies that have gone rogue, and they're absolutely prosecuting their own political agendas of assassinating and harassing, in fact, terrorizing Americans who have a perfect right to travel with their own private possessions, and are trying to break down every protection we have that we thought we had under our natural rights and those preserved in the Constitution. Thank you so much, Michael. Keep up the great work. Sunshine is the best stimulant for tyrannical government. Thank you.
Well, you're absolutely right about that. Thank you very much for the phone call here. And we're apparently not able to connect with our guest today. I don't know what's happened. We're just getting voicemail on the phone line. I'd like to do a shout out to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining the network. And of course, callers are welcome to call on in and just talk about whatever they want to, as long as it's not, the kooky stuff. Hollow Earth. For some reason, somebody's been sending me all this stuff about, the Earth is actually hollow, or the Earth is flat. That's the other new one that's out there. Everybody who says that the Earth is a ball is just, they're crazy. Well, Larry Klayman is out there, and he's saying that Rosenstein's biggest mistake is that he has furthered Mueller's crime to leak grand jury information and rubber stamp the raid on Michael Cohen's office. And at this point, it's becoming very, very obvious Mueller has gone way outside his brief. First of all, the way he was appointed, again, as we reported earlier in the show, there's no official intelligence behind the request for an investigation. Now, normally under Department of Justice rules, a special counsel is called only when a normal Department of Justice investigation has found indications a crime occurred. And that's when a special counsel gets appointed. Rosenstein just tapped Mueller and said, you're now the special counsel, you're looking into Trump's collusion with Russia. And Mueller found nothing, and so Rosenstein said, well, look for other things, look for anything that you can find. It's a political witch hunt. And it really is time for it to end. I think probably most people agree with that. The part that I find most alarming are the liberal Democrats' threats to start riots if Trump fires Mueller. And the liberals think gun owners are the dangerous people. They really are behaving like children. They're just kicking and screaming if they don't get what they want. All righty, so let's see. We have a caller, Dr. Kelly in Northern California. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Great to speak with you today, and there are so many wonderful programs and outlets for this wisdom and knowledge, and I appreciate you as well, and always get a kick out of hearing from Chris near Las Vegas. And I would like to put something out about the grand jury reawakening and the desperate need for it in my neighboring state and Republic of Nevada and the California Republic. And as a way to get in, at least at the county level, for the local government watchdog that people have available to them, and would like to see Nevada kind of mirror that, so that they can serve their people in the best way.
Well, I think the grand juries, unfortunately, tend to have been hijacked by the prosecutors and are more often than not used as a rubber stamp. And grand juries are supposed to follow their own lead, but very often they do not. But
they've done some pretty work with recommending body-worn cameras for Nevada County deputy sheriffs, and they actually do have the body cameras in some of the local cities in the west side of Nevada County, California. And so a little bit of good, does come from those things, and it's really great to learn how to properly investigate things and look into them and see that, the highest order of law is the Constitution for the nation and then that particular republic. And then, statutory is number 3. And then the lowest are the opinions of the Attorney General.
Okay. I was not aware of that.
It's really amazing what can be done to serve. Now is the time, if people are interested, to apply. Now is the time to learn how to be a poll observer, poll watcher, poll worker, and get on a school board, get out there and serve your people.
Well, definitely we're going to need poll watchers this November. We know that there's massive election fraud in this country, but everybody should be involved in the government at one level or another. I tend to aim a little higher, as you can tell. But yeah, you need to be involved. I mean, if we're not watching the government, they're going to do dumb things, if not criminal things. I think a good example of that is right here in Hawaii with our light rail project, which is about as botched can be. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, Doctor.
Thank you so much.
All right, Dr. Kelly, I need to let you go. We finally connected with our guest, Dan McGowan. So, Dan, welcome to the show. Thank you for calling on in. We were about to put your face on a milk carton.
I've never been on a milk cart.
Well, you came very, very close this time. So you are, if I understand correctly, the executive director of Dear Yassin Remembered. This is a Palestinian rights advocacy group. I think it's headquartered in Geneva. And why don't you just start by telling us what the organization is all about?
Sure. In 1948, just about 70 years ago, on April 9th, there was a massacre of Palestinian men, women, and children at a small village called Deir Yassin, which is on the west side of Jerusalem, right near the Holocaust Memorial today. And that particular massacre was emblematic of the dispossession of the Palestinian people in 1948, the destruction of over 400 of their villages, and driving out of over 750,000 Palestinians from the area that was then became Israel a couple of weeks later on May 15th, 1948. And it's emblematic of it, and it's also a pivotal moment in Palestinian history. It's a massacre that every Palestinian has heard about and knows about, but it's a massacre that has largely been flushed down the memory hole as far as history in the United States is concerned, or even Israeli history. So in the mid-90s, we formed an organization to build a memorial at Deir Yassin, where today there's not even a signpost, not even a historical monument or marker. And we've been working ever since to commemorate that pivotal event, and ultimately working to build a memorial there in the shadow of the Holocaust Museum, the most famous Holocaust museum. There are hundreds of them. And of course, it's in an effort to recognize the history of both sides of the conflict.
Mm-hmm.
United States, we dwell on the Israeli side, the Jewish side of the war, what they call the War of Independence, or what the Arabs call the catastrophe, or the Nakba. But today in Israel, the lands controlled by Israel, over half the population is not Jewish. Most Americans are completely unaware of that. They think of Israel as mostly Jews, with maybe 20% Arabs. But that's not correct. The correct figure is that over half the population within the borders controlled by Israel, so that includes Gaza and the West Bank and the Golan Heights, in that area controlled by Israel, over half the population isn't Jewish. And their history, their dialogue, their narrative, we like to say in the academic world, is completely forgotten, particularly by Americans that have unwavering support for Israel. So if we're to gain peace in the area, the idea of a two-state solution and so forth is passé today.
Yes.
There'll never be a two-state solution. But there should be, and as an American I would say, there should be one state with equal rights of citizenship for all, and with equal recognition of the tragic history of both sides. That's the purpose, or the raison d'etre, of Deir Yassin Remembered.
Well, it seems to make a lot of sense to me, and we've observed on this show many times that, if Israel would simply grant to the Palestinians that which it demands for itself, a recognition of their right to exist, we could have avoided the last 70 years of constant tension and bloodshed and war. But it does seem that Israel has an attitude of good for me, bad for you, and I think this is another example. Israel wants their history put on out there. They want everybody else's history to be erased. And it's a very selfish attitude, unfortunately.
Yes, it is. And of course, the Holocaust has been the sword and shield of Israel. The Holocaust is the ultimate tragedy, or certainly portrayed as the ultimate tragedy, which Palestinians had no role in. They had nothing to do with the Holocaust. But they're paying for it.
Yes.
Because the people who were dispossessed from Europe have, in large part, moved to their land, taken over their land, taken over the water, changed the language, and controlled the area. And those Palestinians that are still living in the West Bank, in Gaza, and in Israel itself have suffered greatly for it.
Okay,
Palestinians
we're going to have to take a break. Dan, I'm sorry to cut you off. We got to take a break for commercials. We're going to be 3 minutes of commercials. We'll come right back to you after these few words.
Many people tell us about their experience with Extendivite. Just listen to what Glenn has to say.
Prior to taking it, I had diabetic neuropathy. The Extendivite reduced that significantly. Acid reflux was reduced. I had athlete's foot, very severe. Trimmed that down to about 75%. Dandruff, almost completely gone. I had occipital neuralgia at the base of my skull. I was having migraines, reduced by about 90%. Heart palpitations, my heart would kind of stall out. I would skip a beat. Very uncomfortable. And when walking from downstairs going to sleep, by the time I got to the bedroom, which is just one flight of stairs, my heart was pounding, coming out of my chest. My vision was blurry. This completely solved that problem. Great product. Thanks.
Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
As a listener of RBN, you're surely concerned about being informed and being ready for whatever may come. Please consider the following questionnaire as a soul-jarring wake-up call. If you answer no to more than 2 of these following questions, you probably aren't going to make it through any major disruption in our country. The questions were compiled by people that have been there. Are you really ready? Do you own your own firearm for the primary defense and protection of you and your loved ones? Have you ever been professionally trained to stand against life-threatening behavior? Have you ever practiced enough to fire 500 rounds during a 2 to 4 day time frame, day and night? Can you load, unload, fire, and clear a jam in total darkness? Have all the adults in your household been professionally trained? Are you, life and death, comfortable with your abilities with pistol, revolver, shotgun, and rifle? Are you aware that everything that you do to prepare for an emergency is a waste of time, money, and energy? If you haven't honed your abilities to their highest level to protect and keep what you have, do you have the repair parts that will most likely be needed for each of your firearm, and do you have the ability to install those parts? Could you completely clean every firearm you own? Are you aware that your body won't go where your mind hasn't been? In other words, without proper training, followed by regular practice, you probably will not win a gunfight. Well, how did you measure up? Take the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to start correcting your deficiencies by receiving your Commander Lifetime Membership with Front Sight Firearms Training Facility. A one-time donation to RBN for $500 will give you a Commander Lifetime Membership at Front Sight as a tremendously huge thank you bonus. See details on RBN's webpage to make it happen. The clock is ticking. You had better be ready before it happens.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. We're talking with Dan McGowan, and he's giving us a little bit of history lesson about just how Israel came to be in possession of Palestine. So, Dan, why don't you just pick up where you left off?
Sure. I was describing our organization
Yes.
called Deir Yassin Remembered. I didn't tell the listeners that the organization is half Jews, half non-Jews, half men and half women. It's not a right-wing or a left-wing organization. It's certainly not an academic organization because most of the academia, particularly here in the Northeast, are overwhelmingly on the left side of the spectrum
Yes.
and overwhelmingly pro-Israel to the point of actually being confrontational when any Palestinian history or the Palestinian side of the argument is introduced. I'm reminded of this attitude when I hear about the gassing in Syria a week ago and how abhorrent it was for Americans that the Syrians would use gas or blamed for using gas or chemical weapons. At the same time, Israel used white phosphorus on the residents of Gaza only 8 years ago,
Yes.
and we had nothing to say about it. And white phosphorus is certainly a chemical weapon, as was Agent Orange and napalm that we used in Vietnam and never apologized. So it's this type of hypocrisy, particularly from the liberal sector, from the academic sector, that is so annoying, and that we have felt as an organization supporting Palestinian rights for the past 20 years.
Okay. Well, moving on here a little bit, there was our mutual friend who hooked us together mentioned something about a big stink about a billboard.
Yes. When Donald Trump came to office, he came under the slogan of America First. And we at Deir Yassin Remembered, made a billboard which said America First, not Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And we placed it with Lamar, which is one of the biggest billboard companies in the country, and it lasted 2 weeks. And in those 2 weeks, Lamar got so many complaints from the pro-Zionist people that they were forced to take the billboard down and refund our money. And then we went with Park, and they did the same thing. And we went with Adams, and they did the same thing. So here's a very simple message, only 4 words. America First, not Israel. And we have not been able to get that billboard back up. And by the way, we were paying $8,000 a month for the billboard. And they returned the money. That was fine. But it shows the immense power that the lobby has in the United States when you cannot get that kind of a message across in mainstream America. We've tried other billboards, and they too are largely rejected. The minute that the name Deir Yassin Remembered is associated with the billboard comes down. But, it's the same as far as the USS Liberty is concerned. USS Liberty was an American spy ship, and in 1967, it was attacked for over 2 hours by Israel, and 34 Americans were killed. 173 were wounded. Became subsequently the most heavily decorated ship in the United States Navy. But the story of the USS Liberty is largely hidden.
Yes.
The men that were aboard that ship were told not to say anything about it for fear of losing their pension rights and their status in the military, and for fear of prosecution. And I really think that that's an outrage.
I agree.
In our area,
I agree.
we build a memorial. There's a memorial in Rochester, New York, on the harbor, to the men aboard the USS Liberty, and it's on public property, and it shows an image of the ship, and it tells some of the decorations of the gallant men that were on board. But the word Israel cannot be on that memorial. The person that looks at the memorial does not know who the perpetrator was, does not know who fired for over 2 hours on a largely defenseless ship and
All right.
torpedoed the ship.
Yeah, they did. We're going to have to take another break for commercials. This one's going to be 4 minutes long, and then we'll be back with a large chunk of time to continue the discussion. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slows circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
This is too good to be true, except this time it is real. 100%. No joke. How about a $25,000 membership to Front Sight Firearms Training Facility as a thank you bonus for a one-time donation to RBN of only $500? It is a Commander lifetime membership with no yearly fees or dues. The training is free for the rest of your life with over 50 different classes. Then leave it to your designated beneficiary. You provide the approved firearm, holster, ammo, eye, and ear protection. Many features and bonuses are included, more than you would ever expect or believe. This is the ultimate graduation present, wedding gift, etc., etc. See the details. Go to RBN's webpage and frontsight.com to make it happen. May 5th is the last day you will hear this offer on this radio network. Help keep RBN alive. Tell 5.
Do you know there is an ongoing war right here in America? Are you aware that U.S. citizens have been classified as enemies of the state since 1933? Have you recognized that our entire government is really a vast network of interlocking corporations engaged in commerce? Look up Title 28, Section 3002. Tune in to In Defense of Humanity on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time. Find out what's really going on and learn how to protect yourself and your family as flesh and blood men and women living in a corporate reality.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If the we don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, I mean the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay. Unemployment.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're talking with Dan McGowan, and we were talking about the USS Liberty. And actually, Dan, there is a plaque that was apparently sponsored by survivors of the USS Liberty attack, and I don't know exactly where it's located, but somebody sent me a picture of it, and it does mention that Israel was behind the attack on the Liberty. But you know, the commanding officer, Captain McGonigal, got the Medal of Honor. It was the only Medal of Honor not awarded at the White House by the president. It was given to him in the Navy Yard. That's how hush-hush they wanted to keep this this thing. And the fact that our government, President Johnson, McNamara, were colluding with Israel to basically keep this under wraps at the expense of these servicemen. And Israel's obvious goal was to sink the entire ship, leave no survivors. That's why they machine gunned the life rafts. And then I think they wanted to frame Egypt for the sinking to get the U.S. into the war against Egypt on Israel's side.
Well, that's true. And the plaque that you're speaking of is in Wisconsin.
Okay.
But the memorial that I was talking about was here in Rochester, New York. And in order to get that memorial on public property, they could not mention the name Israel. And we have a senator here in New York, Schumer, who is a media hound. He's on the news most every night. He did not and refused to attend the ceremony. This is a ceremony for 34 Americans, brave Americans, that were murdered. He didn't have any trouble going to ceremonies for the USS Cole, where 17 Americans were murdered by Arab terrorists. But when it came to Jews and Israelis attacking Americans, not just at one moment, but over a 2-hour period, Schumer couldn't come to that. And I think that that's outrageous, but it's indicative of the tremendous power that the lobby has in the United States.
Way too much power. Way too much power.
Today we're talking a lot about BDS, which stands for Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions. Over half the states in the United States have enacted legislation to punish people who support BDS. Boycotting is as American as apple pie. What was the Boston Tea Party if it wasn't boycotting of English tea? Boycotting and urging sanctions is something that's very American. It's a very passive, non-aggressive type of test, and that's punishable in New York State. If I support BDS, I can't work for the state of New York. And the same in Kansas, and the same in 25 of our states. Those laws have been enacted largely silently. Most of the public doesn't even realize that. But it's indicative of the tremendous power that the lobby exerts, and people who put Israel ahead of the United States exert in all of our states.
Well, boycotts are a recognized form of nonviolent protest, and as such, they're protected by the First Amendment. So I think somebody needs to pull together the resources to mount a challenge against all these state laws at the Supreme Court level. And I, for one, am tired of living under foreign puppet rule, which is what this really amounts to. We have a Vichy government in Washington, D.C. They're ruling this country for the benefit of a foreign power. The people of Iraq didn't like that. The people of Afghanistan didn't like that. The people of Libya don't like that. The people of Yemen don't like that. Why should we be any more accepting here in the United States?
That's right. And when Obama was the president, we have Netanyahu coming over to the United States, being invited to the United States Congress, and getting, it's unbelievable, 29 standing ovations for speaking against our president and the Iran policy, which was not just ours, but which is a joint policy with Great Britain and France and Germany and so forth. And here we have a foreign leader coming to the United States, coming to our Congress, and getting that kind of standing ovation is really unbelievable.
Well, AIPAC had people in the overhead gallery with camcorders, and the members of Congress were told ahead of time, if you don't stand up every single time, no more money from us for your next campaign. Much of the Israel lobby's power is its pocketbook. Much of that comes from the American taxpayer. What's really demonstrative of the lobby's power, there was a documentary made about the Israel lobby in Great Britain, and it got aired there, and it caused a huge upset and a stir. And then it turned out the same producers had done a documentary about the Israel lobby in the U.S. It has yet to be broadcast anywhere in this country. It's vanished, almost like the documentary about the Franklin scandal.
That's true, and our organization was actually involved in some of the smearing of Jeremy Corbyn, who was the labor leader in Great Britain. He was smeared as being anti-Semitic because he attended some of our events. And our events included speeches by rabbis and other prominent Jews, Mark Ellis and several other prominent Jewish voices for peace.
Mm-hmm.
But Jeremy Corbyn was criticized and labeled and smeared as anti-Semitic for attending Der Yassin Remembered Ceremony.
Well, I think Israel is on the verge of wearing that out. I mean, 10 years ago, if you were called an anti-Semite, you'd go into shock, you'd whip out your checkbook and throw money at them. Today, they've used it so much, it's almost like it's lost its shock value. And people say, oh, you're an anti-Semite. Well, if you say so, yeah, sure, no big deal. And I think that's probably a good thing because they've gone to that well way too many times. The problem, of course, is that in certain areas of endeavor like the media, if you're labeled an anti-Semite, it does have negative consequences for your career.
It certainly does. In some ways, you're right. It has the definition of anti-Semitism somewhat changed from someone who hates Jews to someone who Jews hate. And
yes.
You are hated if you stand up for equal rights for Palestinians, and you are hated if you in any way criticize the Holocaust narrative, even though that's changed many, many times in history. You are hated if you talk about what they call the Holodomor, or the starvation, the mass starvation in the Ukraine and the Soviet Union in the 1930s, which was disproportionately represented by Jews, Jewish judges, Jews in the communist regime, the Bolsheviks, and so forth. If you mention that, then you are labeled and smeared as an anti-Semite. You will not get tenure. You'll most likely, there'll be some other excuse, but you will be thrown out of the academia,
mm-hmm.
particularly here in the Northeast. But even in the Midwest, almost every country that had anything to do with World War II has been shaken down as somehow guilty for the Holocaust. The United States is accused of not bombing the rail lines into Auschwitz, which is arguably, we had no business bombing rail lines, and we would have killed a lot more people if we had. But we're blamed for that. We're blamed for not allowing people to disembark from the USS St. Louis. In every Holocaust museum across the country, you've got images of the St. Louis and the poor people that had to go back to Europe because they were not allowed to disembark in the United States. Germany, of course, is shaken down because of Hitler and the origins of World War II. But almost every other country, 10 years ago, it was the Swiss. The Swiss didn't return money that had been deposited in numbered bank accounts and so forth.
And now they're trying to shake down Poland.
Poland, of course, but they're shaking down the Mennonites. There was a conference that I attended 2 weeks ago in Bethel, at Bethel College, in just north of Wichita, and it was the third in a series on Mennonites and the Holocaust. They're going to shake down the Mennonites and make them atone for, this is incredible, to atone for a few Mennonites who joined the Wehrmacht and a few Mennonites who even were in the SS. Of course, the whole history of the Mennonites being persecuted by the Bolsheviks, who were disproportionately led by Jews, that is ignored.
Yes.
You can't even mention that. But and the suffering of the Mennonites after actually at the end of World War II, from January of 1945 through the beginning of 1946, the Mennonites suffered horribly, often at the hands of Jews in Poland and the Ukraine and on into Germany, what was Eastern Germany and then Western Germany itself. That's ignored. That's totally ignored. But somebody found that there were a few Mennonites that in desperation joined the German forces, sometimes as ancillary people, sometimes as perhaps as soldiers. Some at least one or two they found actually were in the SS. And so the whole Mennonite population is being shaken down, not so much for money, but to atone and to go to Israel and maybe to put up a memorial and maybe another Holocaust memorial or whatever. That's the bottom of the barrel. That's where we're coming to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they'll probably go along with it.
Yeah, probably. And it is amazing the grip that Israel has on all of these politicians. We're going to go ahead and take a phone call from Kathleen in Paris. Kathleen, aloha, welcome to the show. Do you have a question for Dan?
Yes, I do. Thank you. I heard something about Jews being expelled from many different places with some regularity. So I researched it a bit, and I have a list here of 109 locations where Jews have been expelled since the year 250 A.D. The first one being Carthage in 250 B.C. In fact, I'm going there in about a week to Carthage. And then, 100 or so years later, Jews were expelled from Alexandria. And then the next time was in the year 554. They're expelled from a region in France. And on and on, and on and on and on with some regularity, 109 of them. And the last one was 1948 on this list. I guess that would be the last one, wouldn't it? 1948.
Well, Israel likes to point to all those expulsions as a record of their suffering and persecution throughout history.
Yes.
But if you look at the circumstances of all those expulsions, pogroms, what have you, there's only one common factor in them all, and that is the inability of the Jewish population to integrate and assimilate with the local culture. And that does tend to create a great deal of hostility when you have...
Yeah, that's
Yeah. You know, it's
that
like...
was my question. I mean, why? Why would they be expelled? And not that, I mean, I'm looking at it like they did something, No group just gets kicked out 109 times through history for being agreeable.
Well, that's basically it, and the culture. And I know this because my first wife was Ashkenazi, and she shared all this stuff with me. They are taught by their religion that they're entitled to all the wealth of the world, and that anything that they can do to get it is blessed. The Ten Commandments don't apply to non-Jews, and so they don't have to deal with that prohibition, thou shalt not steal, and so forth and so on. And after a while, that kind of predatory behavior will get on people's nerves. And I think another example of that, of course, would be the Roma, or the Gypsies, who had much of the same attitude issues, but obviously were not as successful in terms of acquiring their own country, other than Romania.
Now, they do also have no compulsion about stealing. They're mostly pickpockets. But that, what's the Fed? The pickpocket.
Well, the Gypsies have modernized and updated. I mean, they run parking lot topping scams. And I remember when we were living in Southern California, the media would warn us every time the Gypsies came to town to be on your guard. There would be all kinds of scams going on. Anyway, thank you for the phone call, Kathleen. We're going to let you go. We're coming up on a commercial break here, and I want to give Dan that final segment of the show. So very quickly, Janine in Florida, what did you want to add?
Yes, I just wanted to comment on his reference to the Mennonites being targeted. I don't know if he's aware that I think the real reason the Mennonites are being targeted is because so many different groups have joined Palestinian peace groups, such as something called Sabeel. And the Mennonites often went into Israel proper in order to escort children so they would be safe from settlers in the West Bank as well as other areas. And they finally were stopped at the airport, held in detention, and then put on the first plane back. The Mennonites have been at the forefront of fighting to defend the Palestinians. And I think that's why they are being targeted.
Okay, Janine, I got to let you go. We're going to take another 3-minute commercial break, then back with the last segment of our program, and Dan McGowan. We'll be right back.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, 2, keep it today.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield Tactical Bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
Do you worry a lot? If you're forgetful, nervous, moody, or overwhelmed, chances are you're not protecting yourself from the ravaging effects of stress and anxiety. No matter the cause, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, your quality of life, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in as little as 1 to 2 weeks and increase your ability to recall facts, names, and numbers in 4 to 12 weeks. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll feel the difference. Call 1-800-758-8746 or go to calmandclever.com.
Some have maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. And before we turn the microphone back over to Dan McGowan, a couple of quick breaking stories. Former President George Herbert Walker Bush has been taken to the hospital, and Israel has launched a missile strike against the Syrian army near the occupied Golan Heights. So getting on back to Dan, what do you see as the future of you and your organization? Where do you go from here?
Well, I think I don't think that that I will be successful in my lifetime, but the pendulum is turning, and it turns basically with Jews who recognize that to extol Jewish humanity and the ethical principles of Judaism, that is incompatible with the way people who support Israel are behaving. We have set up an organization called RighteousJews.org. You know, the Jews started this business in Holocaust museums of listing righteous Gentiles. And by a righteous Gentile, they mean that some non-Jewish person who helped save Jews during World War II. So paralleling that, we started an organization called Righteous Jews. And in order to be considered a righteous Jew, you have to be Jewish, and you have to accept one state with equal rights of citizenship, equal rights for all people living within the borders controlled by Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And an increasing number of Jews are coming to that realization that the creation of the state of Israel as a ethnocentric preference for Jewish people is antithetical to the principles of humanity and to the basic principles of prophetic Judaism. So that I think there will be a change. It won't come from pressure by non-Jews, because most non-Jews are completely kowtowed to the current discourse and current vernacular that calls them anti-Semites, and slimes them with Holocaust denial or some other nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
The change will come within the Jewish community itself, and we are calling these people righteous Jews, but really they're not very righteous. They just simply believe in a basic American principle, namely equal citizenship, equality among everyone living in a particular area.
Well, I got to tell you, I applaud Natalie Portman for taking a stand against what is happening down on that Gaza border.
Yes, her main objection was to Netanyahu itself.
Yes.
And she made it very clear that she did not support the BDS movement, the Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions movement, but she did say, I'm not going to Israel because Netanyahu is so outrageous, and I'm not sharing a stage with him. And I do admire her for that.
Yeah, I do too. That takes a lot of courage. Even a star as prominent as her can still get blacklisted in Hollywood. Anyway, Dan, we have run out of time. Thank you for spending time with us today. We're going to have you back in the future. And thank you again for spending time with us. That's it for our show, folks. Please stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got a lot of stuff to share with you. And please take what you learn here, share it with everyone that you know. Don't go over social media. It's all being filtered and blocked. Just talk to people or send them email and just get the word out. Keep RBN alive. Tell 5. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.
Tired of being lied to by mass